Kyiv's fighters crushed a convoy of Russian armored vehicles in northeastern Ukraine, according to the country's military, ahead of an anticipated Russian push as early as next month. Ukrainian reconnaissance assets zeroed in on an armored column close to Ukrainian positions near the Russian-controlled eastern city of Kreminna. The Azov Brigade, which is now part of Ukraine's National Guard, said in a statement on Saturday. Russia launched an assault on the Donetsk city of Avdiivka in mid-October 2023 and captured the strategic settlement in mid-February. While Moscow's main efforts concentrated on that settlement, clashes have continued along the long front line, snaking from Kreminna down to Ukraine's southern Kherson region. The soldiers of the 12th Azov Brigade and the 95th Air Assault Brigade crushed the enemy convoy near the village of Terny, the Azov Brigade said in a post-to-messaging app Telegram. Russian forces lost 11 pieces of equipment, and the Ukrainian brigade took a T-72 B2M tank, Azov's press service said. A total of 50 Russian fighters were killed, the brigade added, sharing footage purportedly showing the attack. The video appears to show Ukrainian kamikaze drones heading for a line of armored vehicles, with airborne drones capturing footage of explosions along the convoy. A final shot in the video appears to show the captured Russian tank. Russian forces have slowly advanced towards the village of Terny, west of their current positions. The US-based think tank, the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, recently evaluated that Moscow's troops were within around 700 meters of the village. Ukraine's military said on Sunday that its forces repelled 7 Russian attacks around Terny in the past day. The enemy tried to break through our troops' defenses, Kyiv said in a statement. Russia's defense ministry said on Sunday that it had fought off 2 counterattacks by assault groups from the 95th Airborne Assault Brigade around Terny. Ukraine's Azov Brigade rose out of the Azov Battalion and has roots in far-right ideology and ultranationalism, from which it has sought to distance itself over the course of the full-scale war. Moving past a volunteer battalion, the brigade has been absorbed into Ukraine's National Guard. Kyiv has warned that Russia will likely start a new offensive in late May or during the summer, and that it is amassing new troops for the effort. Some Western analysts, such as the ISW think tank, have suggested that Russia may focus on the western parts of Ukraine's eastern Donetsk region, in hopes of building upon Russian forces' steady but marginal advances in this sector. Ukraine has lauded its recent success in taking out a slew of Russian tanks and armored vehicles near the embattled former Ukrainian stronghold of Avdiivka, illustrating a Russian strategy that continues to echo mistakes that cost Moscow dearly in the early weeks of the war, despite recent territorial gains. Kyiv on Monday said paratroopers from the country's 25th Airborne Brigade had stopped a massive Russian attack close to the village of Tonenka, destroying 4 tanks and 2 infantry fighting vehicles directly west of Avdiivka. The brigade, in a separate statement, said simply that it had destroyed a column of enemy equipment. The Institute for the Study of War, ISW, a US think tank that closely follows the conflict in Ukraine, described the Russian attack around Tonenka as Moscow's first battalion-sized mechanized assault since the Kremlin kicked off its offensive on Avdiivka last October. A Russian tank battalion typically contains upwards of 30 vehicles, fresh off claiming Avdiivka in mid-February. Russia's first major victory since the fall of Bakhmut in May 2023. The loss of so many vehicles in one fell swoop is a callback to the early errors and sky-high armored losses that Moscow suffered in the first phase of its full-scale invasion 2 years ago. There are some similarities between this Russian attack near Tonenka and those Russian assaults early in the war, said Bryden Sperling, senior research leader for defense and security with the European branch of the RAND think tank. It's surprising that the column in Tonenki mostly used a single road and didn't appear to use the open ground on either side and spread its forces out, though it looks like some vehicles did try to disperse, he told Newsweek. The Russian crews may have been worried about muddy terrain or mines, he added, saying, either way, these were significant losses of tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. Near Tonenka, we saw almost the same mistakes from their side as near Vuhledar in the previous year. Major Viktor Tregobov, a Ukrainian journalist and editor who now serves in the Ukrainian military, told Newsweek. Vuhledar, a small village in southern Ukraine, was the scene of intense clashes for several weeks in the early part of 2023. Ukrainian officials told the New York Times at the time that it was the biggest tank battle of the war so far. Analysts previously told Newsweek that organizational and planning failures plagued Russia's first armored assaults during its initial invasion in 2022. Ruptures in the chain of command, poor training, and heavy initial casualties left few Russian soldiers to train the next generation of tank crews.